So I have stumbled across one of the most curious cases, and I'm making this video as a cry for help. Because try as I might, I have not even been able to uncover a rumor as to why this might have happened. Any sort of explanation that I can rationalize in my own brain as to what would cause what I'm about to tell you today. So I am hoping that one of you somewhere actually knows what happened or knows a rumor as to what happened or can just tell me what happened, because I don't know what happened, and I want to know. I really want to know what happened, because it's really going to bother me if I don't know what the hell happened in this particular situation. It's the case, the curious case, not Curious George, the curious case of Daniel Sousa, a manager, a Portuguese manager who's part of Andre Villas-Boas' staff for a decade. Of course, Andre Villas-Boas is not a manager anymore, and so he stepped into management himself, and he was, up until this year, a hot prospect in the Portuguese managerial game because he did very well last year. But all of a sudden, he's become a black sheep. He's become a pariah. And put your seatbelt on, because the story I'm about to tell you, it doesn't even sound true. That's how little sense it makes, which is why I'm hoping somebody has an explanation. But there's multiple things I'm seeking an explanation for. First of all, when you read Daniel Sousa's Wikipedia, I just uncovered something that I need to understand, right? He was a student at the University of Porto. Daniel Sousa was a student at the University of Porto. So he was recommended to Villas-Boas by a former member of his staff named Jose Guilherme. But Jose Guilherme's job confuses me a little bit. He was a professor of football at the University of Porto. You're telling me that I went through all the way through grad school and I never knew I could get a degree in football? Soccer? There's no professor of soccer anywhere. I mean, it's because it's the United States and they don't know how to play, right? But there's no professor of American football, baseball, hockey, basketball. I've never met any of those. If there were, I would have taken that class. Do you really think I wanted my double major in history and media studies? I mean, come on, I like media and I love history, but really, my graduate degree in broadcast and digital journalism, which I don't use at all now, I would have gotten I would have gotten a double major and a minor in football. Maybe a minor in basketball. You know, got to mix it up or something. Professor of football. God, no wonder you guys, no wonder Portugal's able to put together such an unbelievable national team with like 5 people and a bottle of wine to, pass between them in the entire country. Right. Jose Guilherme, professor of football, recommends Daniel Sousa to Villas-Boas. And that's how his career starts, because he had a professor of football. Again, so unbelievably jealous. He bounces around, he manages Gil Vicente, and then he gets hired at Arouca, who's last in the league on the 15th of November. Now, Arouca, if you look at the table in this particular year, they're down in 13th. But what he managed to do last year, Daniel Sousa, is guide them all the way up to 7th. He went from the bottom of the table to take Arouca up to 7th in the league. And as a result, he ended up getting hired by Braga in May. He was hired away. Braga needed a new coach. That's a huge step up. He obviously proved himself by guiding a club that had no business being in the top 7 in Portugal into the top 7. And this is the sort of trajectory that every hot prospect manager seems to go through. You take over a team that's supposed to be bad. You make them decidedly not bad. They were described by this article as one of the most exciting teams in Portugal last season. They were playing an excellent brand of football. This was not your Diego Simeone football terrorism to achieve results here. He was actually getting this team to just outplay other teams, even though previously there wasn't a lot of skill or talent identified on this particular team. You get the job at Braga and everything's going normally. You go through the summer, you make your signings, you do your friendlies, and then the season starts. And this is where the weirdness really kicks in for Daniel Sousa, okay? Because the season starts, and it doesn't start particularly poorly. He manages the first couple of games. I'm going to pull this up just so you can visualize this a little better. So here's the schedule. He kicks off the season, and it's a couple of wins against Patash Tikva, a team that he's absolutely supposed to beat in the Europa League second round qualifying with Braga. They then enter the third round of qualifying with Braga, and they get a really difficult draw. Club called Servette out of Switzerland, I believe. And Servette made the European knockouts last year. They actually went to penalties against Victoria Pilsen. I don't know why I remember that. It was a very interesting tie where like nobody scored over the entire 180 minutes, over the entire 210 minutes, I think. And then eventually it went to penalties. So there's no, there's no brutal part of Braga drawing that first leg of that match 0-0. I mean, you are playing against a team that made the European knockouts last year. And then he starts the season with a 1-1 draw against Estrela Amadora. And then he gets fired. That was it. Literally, that was it. One league match. He won the first two matches. He was supposed to win against Patash Tikva. Tougher European qualifying draw. The first match was 0-0. Right, but there's a whole second leg to come, which, by the way, Braga would go on to win in its next match 2-1 to advance to the next qualifying round of the Europa League, which he was sacked 4 days before that match after a draw against Estrela Amadora. Just, you get one of the top managerial prospects in Portugal. You give him 4 matches, including 1 league match, and fire him. He didn't lose. I mean, sure, you would have rather have won the opening match of the league season, but if we fired everybody, every time they got a disappointing draw, then there would be no managers of any teams ever, because they all would have managed every possible team and been fired already. Okay? New managers in some places get years, and that's what should happen. But the weirdest part about it is literally zero public reason has been given. That is stressed on his Wikipedia. That is stressed on this article. And it's not the end of this story either. Okay, there's more to this. There's more on this timeline. But he gets fired after 4 matches, 1 league match. And now they're in court. Daniel Souza and the owner of the club are in court. Antonio Salvador is the owner. He has not said anything publicly about why the manager was sacked. And now they're in court trying to figure out what appropriate compensation is. So clearly there is a certain amount of hatred going back and forth between these two parties. They're in court over the amount of compensation, which honestly, Daniel Souza should be entitled to basically all of it. What do you mean you hired him and then fired him after 1 league match? But clearly, there is something behind the scenes that happened that we don't know about. And we're just going to have to pretend that this firing is as insane as humanly possible. Like, what, did he sleep with the owner's daughter? Like, seriously, like what sort of Henry VIII, rom-com bullshit was going on where he got fired after 4 matches? Who's the asshole here? That's really what you're trying to figure out. Is it the manager that's the asshole? Is it the owner that's just an insufferable asshole that the manager didn't want to put up with? Because I feel like someone's an asshole, and we just got to play spot the asshole. But anyways, obviously, this incredibly talented young manager is on the market again. So he ends up being brought in by Vitória Guimarães right the day after Christmas, December 26th. So he takes a few months off after getting sacked in August. Opportunities present themselves. Daniel Souza steps in. It's actually a local rival of Braga, which is even juicier. So he's stepping in. He's going to try and, create a bit of a rivalry. It's an opportunity to get back at the team that sacked him for apparently absolutely no reason. And I'll track that career here for you. He takes over, and the opening match is a 2-2 draw at Firenze with a stoppage time goal for Firenze. And then the next match is a wild 4-4 shootout. Many people saying that this was like one of the matches of the season in the Portuguese league against league-leading Sporting, right? Against a very, very good Sporting team, Gyökeres. Vitória should have won it. Another stoppage time goal for Sporting. And then they go into the round of 16 of the Taça de Portugal, the Portuguese Cup. And they lose. A shocker. On the road against a 4th division team in the Portuguese Cup. Now, it is the round of 16. Okay, so this is not like the first round of the Cup here. Clearly, this 4th division team has some game. You don't make it to the last 16 teams if you don't have some game, but they lose. Bit of an egg on the face moment. One of the biggest upsets in the Cup in years, right? Kind of a local opponent as well, a 4th division team that you go out and you lose to. And then they fire him. And then he gets fired again. What is so radioactive about this guy that he has managed 7 matches at 2 different clubs and been fired both times? There's nothing in it. Once again, no public information made available. I mean, is this guy like the worst person of all time? Is he just the least likable guy anyone's ever met? He's just fired. He got fired after 1 league match at Braga. He got fired after 2 league matches at Guimarães, including a draw against the top flight team in the league. He has not lost a league match as a manager this season. And yet somehow he's fired. I mean, sometimes you lose in the cup. Ange Postecoglou went to extra time with Tamworth. This guy would have been fired 5 times for that. Seriously, come up with an explanation. Come up with one logical train of thought that would explain how this has happened to Daniel Souza, who now doesn't have a job again. Look at his managerial tenures, right? He managed Gil Vicente for a season, did pretty well. He managed Aroca for a season, did brilliantly. Braga, 4 matches. Vitória Guimarães, 3 matches. 2 heartbreaking draws, including a team in the top of the league. And then just one of those, you get FM'd, brutal loss to a team in the cup. But like, even if the team goes out and plays terribly in all of those matches, how do you fire a guy after 3 matches? Vitória Guimarães also, they had the lead in this match as a 75th minute winner for Elvas. Obviously brutal, obviously painful. You hate losing a match like this, but what the hell is going on with Daniel Souza? What the hell is going on in Portugal? Why is this happening? This guy seems like a good manager, but he hasn't even had time to get his feet wet. He can't even get in the pool. He can't even see the pool. He's still in the changing room putting his bathing suit on, and then they just call in over the PA and tell him to stop changing. He can't even test out the temperature of the water. He gets fired so fast. Why? I need to know why this is happening. One of the 2 owners needs to come out and tell me they just get sick of looking at his bald head, or he has weird requests to the cafeteria staff and they just couldn't handle it. Something, anything. He forgets to wear deodorant. I don't know. But he was able to hold down 2 jobs for basically an entire season. And now he's, what do you even do at this point? I'd be afraid to hire this guy, even though it looks like he just keeps getting screwed. If I was a Rauch, I'd fire whoever I have and bring him back, because they were a lot better under him than they are now.